Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there and feeling well, and I certainly appreciate you folks joining me this evening as we try to figure out what's going to happen with this low pressure that is expected to develop off the coast of the southeast. And that's what we're here to do. That's going to be the only topic in this evening's video. So we're going to try to get as detailed as we can, and we will continue to do so over the next 48 hours as we try to really pin down exactly what it's going to do. But I can tell you right now, the Carolinas is certainly the main topic with this. The coastline could be impacted. I'm not talking about like a strong tropical storm or hurricane or anything like that. In fact, even though the National Hurricane Center has acknowledged this, and we're about to talk about that on the very first panel, it's saying this is going to be a non-tropical low. And we'll talk about why in this video. We won't get too ahead of ourselves here in the intro, but we'll try to figure this out for you guys. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. It goes a long way, especially in these slower times. We have certainly slowed down. The views have certainly tanked, but all this was expected. And honestly, I embrace it. It's a slower time. It gives me time to really spend time with my family. Honestly, when putting these videos together, I can put them together a lot quicker when there's not as much going on as when we're trying to break down a major winter storm or severe weather outbreak, where we have those videos that are like, 30 to 40 minutes long. So, but with that being said, if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So we'll jump right to it. The National Hurricane Center. And guys, this is available to you all. All you got to do is go on Google on your phone, type in NHC, and I'm pretty sure, I can almost guarantee it, that the first link that's going to show up at the top is going to be the link to the National Hurricane Center website, and it's very easy to use. And sure enough, here we go. The 7-day outlook indicates a 10% risk right off the Carolina and Georgia coastline of development. Now, it does mention that this is likely, very likely, going to be a non-tropical low. In the discussion right down here, it talks about this and discusses all this right down here. And like I said, this is all available. Don't want to just read you a couple paragraphs off on this video when I know you guys can certainly hop on there and do it. That would take a lot of time. But anyways, a 10% risk to develop, a chance to develop here. So pretty low. We'll see if this goes to 20% chance. We'll see what happens. What I can tell you is we've seen some crazy things happen over those waters of the Gulf Stream, right? Very warm waters. Some tricky things can happen. But as of right now, with a lot of kind of cooler, drier air kind of working its way into the system, just the fact that this is influenced by a frontal boundary, it's going to have a lot. It looking like it's going to be a cold core setup. You need this thing to really sit out over the Gulf Stream for a long period of time to develop some kind of hybrid or warm core setup, which means more tropical characteristics with this system. So as of right now, 2 p.m. today, Eastern time, this is what we got. So let's compare the GFS, the European, and the Canadian, see what we got here. Then we'll talk about potential impacts. So the latest GFS, we'll start off for tomorrow evening. A lot of just weather, a lot of rain, showers, and storms right off the coast of the Carolinas and Georgia, and right over the state of Florida, the peninsula of Florida. I think tomorrow will be quite shower, stormy, but honestly, not much different than what you've seen over the last few days. But this energy will continue to merge, and then this is when a low pressure will develop somewhere in here. This is around Friday, just after lunchtime. A lot of rain just off the Carolina and Georgia coastline, just sitting here, just kind of parking here. It's kind of slow steering currents, is not allowing this to just quickly plow into the Carolina coastline initially. But I could say Friday evening, if you're heading to the beach from inland, say if you're in Columbia or Charlotte or up in Virginia, and you're heading east or southeast, you're going to notice you're going to run into a huge cloud bank and eventually rain. I'm not trying to be negative, but it's going to be a terrible weekend for beach weather. Now, I can say this: Sunday PM into Monday could end up clearing up and be a nice day along the coastal Carolina area, but it just depends on how quick this moves out. But the GFS, you got basically 1,002 millibar low pressure inching its way to the South Carolina coastline. And as we get into Saturday morning, you already got a lot of rain being thrown into the Carolinas, southern Georgia, I expect a big shield of rain into this area, but it makes a landfall from the GFS right into kind of the far northeast coastline, kind of in and around the Myrtle Beach or just north area, sometime Saturday p.m., right? It brings a huge slug of moisture with it, especially to the north, right into northern North Carolina, southern Virginia, and then this moves in and really weakens very quickly as we get into Sunday morning. This is what I'm saying. You get into Sunday afternoon, no rain along the Carolina coastline. You just got periodic showers, and you got some kind of cutoff low over here that might pivot more rain back into the Carolinas, unfortunately, for late Sunday into Monday. But we'll see what happens with that. Really just focusing in on this low pressure. The European, what does the European do? Same kind of deal. You get into late Friday night, huge slug of moisture just off the South Carolina, Georgia coastline. And Saturday morning, you could potentially be waking up to a lot of heavy rain somewhere along the South Carolina coastline. And at the same time, this is bringing onshore flow. So, I wish I had my cursor up, but you got winds coming in basically off the ocean and moving onshore. So this is going to create probably a little bit of storm surge, or a little bit of storm surge, not a ton. Nasty rip currents, high surf will be basically pushed into the Charleston area, the Beaufort area, Hilton Head, even up to Myrtle Beach. And as we're getting into, Saturday afternoon, the European has it making a landfall more so Sunday morning as opposed to Saturday p.m. Off the GFS. And then this plows into the Carolinas, brings not just rain, but a cold rain for everybody where it's raining. So this is in the middle of the night, Saturday night and Sunday morning. It looks pretty small, but I mean, this is some moderate to heavy rain surging right into the eastern Georgia, all of South Carolina, a good chunk of North Carolina, right into the southern Appalachian Mountains. And then this quickly kind of falls apart. Canadian, not a whole lot different. Canadian does plow this much further north, though. Canadian's kind of stubborn and brings this slug of moisture more so into North Carolina and makes a landfall sometime Sunday p.m. It's a very weak low pressure. So if we look at the latest long-range HRRR model, I want to show you this for a reason here. We get this going into Thursday. You can already see a little bit of spin going on, right? We're getting into Friday morning. Look how some of this moisture is kind of moving like this. This moisture is kind of pivoting back this way. So I think Friday morning there's going to be a lot of showers and storms and just heavy rain right off the Georgia and South Carolina coastline, just waiting to kind of get pushed inland into South Carolina. But you can already see this massive broad spin ongoing right here, with this rain kind of moving east, this rain kind of moving back west. So you can already see that spin kind of developing, and then maybe Friday a slug of heavy rain might move into or develop right over the peninsula of Florida. So let's compare and contrast rainfall. So this is the GFS through Tuesday morning of next week. It likes this weird gap right into the sandhills of North Carolina, upstate of South Carolina. I wouldn't focus so much on that, but really slams kind of northeast North Carolina, southern sections of Virginia with a slug of anywhere from 2 to as much as 3.5 inches of rain. Same kind of deal down here in South Carolina. You got this area of 2 to 3 inches of rain. And I think along the coastal regions, you're almost a sure bet for anywhere from 1 to 4 inches of rain. European really likes this a little bit further south. Does not give as much rain, widespread heavy rain for North Carolina. Still likes this area right into the North Carolina-Virginia border, but really brings heavy rain. I expect flood watches to be issued somewhere in this area, but really likes eastern Georgia more so, and western South Carolina, the low country of South Carolina, to get several inches of rain. In fact, it really hits the South Carolina coastline from anywhere from 4 to as much as 6-7 inches of rain. And guys, this is going to be a chilly rain too. I'm going to show you this in a second. Here's the more middle ground. It's the blend of all models, blends all of them together. And I like the way this shapes up, but this might not be the way it happens. But, this is what it shows. The Carolina coastline, good for 2 to 4 inches of rain. Heavier rain could be in South Carolina. Heavier rain could be in North Carolina. But I think most of the Carolinas is going to get rain from this, and even Virginia. So, just kind of look where you're at. 1.5 inches, 2 inches of rain. It just depends. So we'll talk about winds, right? Well, there's a chance for 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts along the Carolina coastline. Okay, we're getting into Friday morning. Strong winds just offshore. I mean, these are winds gusting to 40, 50 miles per hour right offshore. You ask, are these going to move onshore? Well, I mean, you stop at Friday evening. These winds are moving northwest onshore. So this is pushing water. So I could see there being some coastal flooding. Definitely is likely, in my opinion. And right along the actual coastline, I mean, if you live right along the immediate coast, you're going to have, I think, a stiff, probably 25 to 35 mile per hour wind gust, coming out the southeast, moving northwest. Okay, so if I get my directionals mixed up, I do apologize. It happens often. But, I mean, it's already quite gusty all the way up into the Piedmont and North Carolina and South Carolina. But, you move into Saturday morning, some of these stronger wind gusts move a little bit inland into the eastern Midlands, the eastern North Carolina. You got 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts, not sustained, but gust. It's quite breezy waking up Saturday morning. A cold rain's falling and just a miserable start to your Memorial Day weekend. And, I mean, you get all the way into Saturday. I mean, Fayetteville, the blend of all models runs is wanting to say winds gusting to 40 miles per hour. Breezy in Columbia, Charlotte, Florence, certainly breezy. Orangeburg, Raleigh. Very breezy conditions, and then things start to chill out as we get into our Sunday and this pulls away. But we talk about temperatures, guys. The National Weather Service, we'll say they're going to stay probably more conservative. They're not going to go really, really cold. But I can already tell you that you're already being influenced by this for Friday. Highs only in the low 70s for most of everybody in the Carolinas and Virginia and even eastern Georgia. This is already because clouds are starting to move into the area at the same time. You got troughing setting up from the north. This is surging in cool, dry air out of the north in general. This is linking up with this moisture off the coast. So this is almost creating kind of a cold air damming setup where you got a lot of dry, cooler air being funneled into moist air, which is allowing for the wet bulb, which is basically so basically it's where, say if your dew point was 60, say if your dew point was 50 and the air temperature was 70, right? If it starts raining at a moderate pace, your temperature is going to drop, right? So your temperature is at 70, dew point's at 50. Temperature is going to drop, but dew points are going to rise because it's raining. Dew points, the measure of moisture in the atmosphere. So dew points are going to rise into the upper 50s. Temperature is going to drop into the low 60s, and then they're going to meet somewhere. And that's your wet bulb temperature. Maybe your wet bulb temperature might be 60 degrees. So your wet bulb temperature is going to be low because a lot of dry, cooler air funneling into this region. So I can almost guarantee you there's going to be areas Saturday that do not get out the 50s, even outside the mountainous regions. It's going to be absolutely raw in the mountains. Certain areas won't get out the 40s, especially in those higher elevations like a few thousand feet up. So cold pocket of air right into this region. Saturday will be the worst with this by far. I can almost bet it's going to be colder than this. Sunday, look, you're starting to warm up along the eastern Carolinas. Okay, starting to get back to those 70s and 80s. Still hanging on to some chilly air in this region right into here. And then you get into Monday. Your Memorial Day, I think, could potentially be nice, much better. So I don't think the whole entire weekend's ruined. I think Saturday is definitely ruined. I think Sunday is iffy. I think Monday we could have showers and storms, some clouds, but I think it'll be better. So one thing I want to watch is, if you look at the European, it symbolizes this cold pocket of air that's being produced by heavy rainfall. So, this is highs potentially sometime Saturday. Like I said, there's going to be areas where you're going to be in the mid-50s. So it shows this weird pocket of cooler air. So we got to figure out what's going to happen with the temperatures, the rain, everything. But it's going to be raw Saturday. National Weather Service in Charleston's already issued some alerts here. Rip current risk for Thursday into Thursday night, pretty high. If you're in any kind of coastal regions, heading down there maybe Thursday night, rip currents are going to be very high, and they're going to be a moderate level all the way up the South Carolina coastline as early as tomorrow into tomorrow night. You look at rip current risk for Friday into Friday night, high. And this is probably going to be all the way up the Carolina coastline too. Another thing you look at here is high surf risk. It's going to be pretty elevated Friday into Friday night. It's going to be kind of like a weak tropical storm, I would say, but there's not going to be tropical characteristics technically in the core of the storm. So it kind of reminds me of Ian with the Carolina coastline. Obviously, it doesn't remind me of Ian where it hit southwest Florida, but when it kind of rode across the peninsula of Florida, back off the coast of the southeast, and right back into South Carolina, it lost all its tropical characteristics. And that's because, if you remember, we had some crazy, phenomenal, great fall weather right at the end of September last year in Georgia and the Carolinas, where we had a lot of dry, cool air, and it was mashing up right against that moist air of the tropics. But all that dry, cool air influenced the core of the storm for Ian. So even though it did strengthen into a hurricane, it was really kind of like an extra tropical hurricane, if you will. So that's all I got. Hope that helps. We'll continue to do this, get it figured out for you guys. Be aware of any kind of tricks in this. I've seen weirder things happen with these tropical and non-tropical systems. God bless all y'all. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you in the morning.